Well, look, thanks very much for joining us.
Oh, no worries, man. No worries. It's a pleasure.
It's an absolute pleasure meeting you finally, because it's been nice chatting to you on via Instagram, and you know, I had the pleasure of you doing some work for me, and I thought, well, this is really unique and it's really nice work, and I thought, well, you know what, it's good for, you know, maybe because I mean the idea is fxpedalplanet is we get sort of people in like yourself and connect you with, you know, members, you know, with interviews and promoting your stuff, and we just thought it might be a nice thing to do, really.
Yeah, it's great, man. I'm you know, honoured to be invited.
I was suitably impressed with your work, I have to say.
No,
I was suitably impressed with your work. So, and we'll come on to that in a bit.
Yeah.
But guitar-wise, you must be a guitarist.
Yeah, well, yeah, not a passable one. Yeah. I mean, I got into building guitars because I was just building stuff for myself. Like I've always been a bit kind of DIY orientated, and I think like whenever I think about this kind of stuff, and you I don't know if you have that where you kind of recognize common themes in your life and go, oh, I am a person who thinks I could do that about pretty much anything, often really wrongly. Like, when I started building guitars, I just thought, well, I could build that. Like I think I wanted the first guitar I kind of cannibalized together was a Jaguar, because I wanted one, and I looked at how much they were, and I thought, well, I could do that. And so I made one, and yeah, it was a pretty humbling experience.
And how long ago was that? When you made your first Jag?
7 years ago, I guess.
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah, yeah. And then I went on to making just ridiculously. I then just made really complicated stuff. I just did things that were silly because I thought, oh well, you know, why aren't all guitar builders making, you know, these, you know, really over the top things with all weird etched metal hardware and every single possible combination of pickups? And I quickly found out why they're not doing it. It's because it's a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare. But yeah, that was what got me into doing it, was that. And at the time I was teaching a bit of guitar, and so I had students, and I was just building guitars for them, and just kind of learning the trade, really, stumbling through it, really stumbling through it. But yeah, it was
best way, isn't it? You know,
it's the only way for me. I'm really terrible at being told what to do and told how to do things. Like I've never been good at that. So I have to, you know, if I get a lot of information, I switch off. I have to kind of do it for myself, even though that's a really often not a great way to do it.
Yeah. Well, you know what, I mean, you mentioned about some people very practical minded and kind of have a go at this.
Yeah.
I've been the other way around. I've never, you know, I'm not about practical things, but it's never really kind of interested me, you know, so much. My sort of career and background has always been in sales, so I'm better at talking about products. I love talking about products.
Yeah,
that's kind of what I do, you know. And I mean, I could talk products all day, and it's just what I enjoy doing. So once I start, it's very difficult to shut me up when I'm talking about products. But
that's a good quality.
But that's me. But your guitars are really, I mean, they're very unique. They're very beautiful.
Thank you.
And they're very artsy, and you know, they are a work of art. And I understand you've got a bit of an art background. So what's your sort of artistic background?
Well, so I've always been really, really interested in art, and I think growing up, I was not academically strong at all, and I rather than try to be good at academic stuff, I just went, well, forget all that, like, and just was super focused on drawing and painting, and anything along those lines. And I think I always think of myself as an artistic person who has tried to build guitars rather than, I don't think I'm not a natural woodworker or someone who, I've had to learn those skills, but the design side of things is much more natural to me. So designing stuff is, I'm quite comfortable there. Actually building it and learning all that side of things, less so. That was quite a steep learning curve. But so I studied art at, well, it was actually Brighton University, but the Hastings branch of Brighton University. And then after that, I kind of just kicked around doing various jobs and building guitars on the side.
Yeah.
And really, really enjoyed it. And I think one of the reasons I really like building guitars is because I don't know, as a painter, I did a lot of painting when I was younger and did a couple of exhibitions and stuff. And people just look at a painting and go, oh, and then they walk off, and you think, well, that was 6 months of my life that you just went. Yeah, it can be a pretty hollowing experience. And the thing that's really nice about building an instrument for someone is that the relationship that a guitarist has with their guitar is so personal, and it just goes on, and you kind of feel like you're just part of that. And then you make a tool, essentially an instrument, and then you go, okay, off you go, and then it's used to do other art. There's something really cool about that for me. I find that really satisfying. And then if I build a guitar for someone, seeing them then playing it, it's like I'm kind of tangentially involved in it. It's really, I find that really satisfying.
A lot of pedal builders have said that to me, and funny enough, Matt at Studios, who showed you the fuzz earlier on, he said exactly the same thing. He says, it gives him a huge amount of pleasure seeing his pedals being used by other musicians. And I've heard so many other pedal builders say the same thing. Michael from Tone Tuga in the States, he loves to know that his pedals are in other parts of the world being played by musicians. It's
really cool. You're putting something into someone else's hands and then letting them do what they want to do with it. Is a really interesting kind of way to be creative, because you're partially there, but actually I guess it's like people covering your songs or something. I don't know. It's a weird one. It's really, but I really like that. It's the thing about building guitars that I find the most satisfying, that they kind of go off and have a life of their own after you make them. It's great.
And some of your guitars, the first thing I noticed about them is particularly around the bridge area. I mean, there's a lot of rounded and curved shapes and quite slender. It's a really interesting profile on a lot of your guitars, but also around the bridge area, using different materials like wood and things like that. I've always had a real to do that.
Well, I feel like I've always had a real the reason I started making kind of pick guards and parts is because if you build a guitar from scratch, and then basically if you're not doing the kind of hardware pick guards and bridges and stuff, then you're just really limited on choice and control knobs. It's just like there are essentially 5 or 6 different kinds of control knobs, and it's like if you spent ages shaping this guitar and doing this design so it all looks like that, and then you've just got to put control knob 2 on it that every other guitar has, and it's just like for me, I find that really jarring, like that you're looking at it and like, oh, that doesn't actually go, like, and I got a real problem with bridges and how they look, and a bit how they feel. Like Tunematic bridges are really great design and hasn't changed for years, but they don't look the way I want them to look. Like they look, if I've made a really kind of sleek, simple design, they've got loads of little angles and little screws on them and stuff, and it just it doesn't look the way I want it to look. So yeah, I think, like everything, I think I can make that. And I thought that about tunematic bridges, and yeah, I've made an alternative that is it's tricky to set up, but once it's set up, it's really nice to play because it's completely smooth on the heel of your hand and looks right with the with the guitar. So
it does. Yeah. It does look right, and it's I'd say the first time I'd ever seen it, and it's quite eye-catching. And it's with all the rounded features of the guitar around the back on the body and stuff. It just fits. It just works.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, well, I'm really pleased you think that, because it's yeah, it was hard work, and so sometimes I think, I don't know, I so often think, well, why don't people do this? And then a lot of the time it turns out it's just really difficult. That's why, and people think it's not really worth it. And yeah, there are times when I've thought, oh, why don't we do that? And actually, it's turned out it's too difficult, and most people are right. But in the instance of that bridge, it's taken me ages to work out a way to make it like that, so that it actually is actually quite user friendly. It's quite easy to use, and it adjusts from the back. And yeah, now I've done it, I'm just going to do that all the time, because it sounds great as well. It's I mean, I don't know whether it does anything different, but I like the feel of a rock solid lump of brass that slots like perfectly into the body. Feels and sounds amazing, I think. But
yeah, I'd imagine it does with the wood. I mean, it's all in intrinsically connected, and
it's all properly linked. There's no there's not much to wobble around on a tunematic bridge, but there's nothing to wobble around on this, because it's just a big piece of brass.
Well, the thing is as well, it must be nice to for palm muting and things like that,
Yeah, it's really cool, because I don't know whether I'm kind of weirdly sensitive, but I find that thing where you go to palm mute, and then especially like strap bridges are the worst. You play someone else's strap bridge, and all the little grub screws are sharp, and it's like, oh, I don't like. It's not going to do anything to you, but it doesn't make you comfortable. Like, it doesn't make you feel. I want a guitar to feel really super comfortable when you play it. I don't want there to be anything in the way of your playing experience. And obviously most people don't care about tunematic bridges, and it's not that bad, but it was just one of those things that I thought I think I can make something that it looks nicer and feels nicer. Yeah.
Well, with regards to the guitar being sort of comfortable to play, and I could be wrong in saying this, but the bodies tend to look a little bit longer than a conventional guitar body. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah. So sometimes
it might, and I would assume that might help with the balance a little bit.
Yeah, I try to get the balance right. That's another thing that is, again, just annoying if you play a guitar and it's always trying to go that way or the other way. But I mean, usually trying to go, neck dive. It's just another thing. I mean, to be honest, as a guitarist, I need all the help I can get. So if any excuse, the neck dive, that's what's making me play terribly. That's why I've hit 50% of the notes I was meant to hit in the last half an hour. But yeah, I have become really focused on comfort, and it's also a little bit about trying to see what you can do, because as a guitar builder, there are huge companies who are amazing, like Fender, PRS, Gibson, they're all churning out amazing guitars, and they can do it at a fraction of the cost of what I can do it at. So I think you need to think, well, what do I do? Because I mean, I don't know whether this is fair, but I see a lot of guys out there building guitars that are, really similar to what, you know, the big factories build. And I just think, well, I'm sure there, you know, there are people out there who are doing it better than Fender, but I don't really see the point in trying to be better at Fender at being Fender like that. You know, they've already done that. They've got that market covered, and it's, you know, they do it cheaper. So, you know, I mean, I think there's a prestige thing, and I think that, you know, some people are, you know, I guess that's just an avenue that I'm not been that keen on going down. But yeah, yes, the thing is to identify something really special about Fender and just, you know, really focus on it and get it absolutely perfect. And that's a, you know, that's a skill, but it's not that's not my particular skill set. Like, my skill set is definitely design, and yeah, just trying to find little things that it's just like, well, they're not doing that. You know, you can't find a bridge like this, or a, you know, on every guitar. And so yeah, but I do definitely get into weird little moments where I'm just like, can I redesign this? And it's just like, so, yeah. There have been occasions where the answer has definitely been no. Like, no, you can't.
That's not a bad thing, is it? No, just to keep, you know, having aspirations and ideas beyond the boundaries. You know, that's not a bad thing to have. Really.
Yeah, I guess so. There's definitely times when I thought it's a bad thing, where I'm just like, oh, for God's sake, just spent ages trying to work out how to do this, and it just hasn't worked. And I find that really hard to accept. I think I've got a bit better at it as I've gotten older, but yeah, I find it quite hard to go, that, Richard, accept it, that hasn't worked. If I'm there going, it just needs a few more tweaks. It's just like, no, it hasn't worked. Just leave it and focus on something you're better at.